Makes me want to say key and they go live. You know, it's been a good week. I hope your days of unleavened bread have gone by fast for you. I hope you haven't had that craving for eating cookies and, bread with your salami. I hope you made your way on through. I hope you didn't smell the Bisco when you left here one day and wanted to go right down and get you some Oreo cookies, but that you held out, that you held on, that you held strong. Now, it's interesting because, these days are wonderful. I thought I should have lost a couple pounds because all I've been eating is matzah, But unfortunately, I've been eating matzah with cheese, matzah with salami, matzah with butter. My wife says I put too much butter on the matzah. And it's not low fat, so, unfortunately, I haven't really lost the weight. I thought I was going to lose like a pound or two, but actually, I'm going to be very honest, I think I gained about a pound and a half. But we've been eating so much matzah, we've been eating so much matzah, it's really been fun. And you know what I have my favorite food? I have my filter fish. They tore it up, but I share with you out and His mercy endures forever. So, this is a double day of blessing. This is the seventh day of unleavened bread. But it's nice when you have a child born during the time of the Feast of Freedom. Hallelujah. And so, I'm going to kind of whip on him because he should have been here for the later today. Don't go your head down. Right? But we are here with you and with your family for this very, very special day on this seventh day of unleavened. I want to take this some minutes and I'm going to ask you to examine with me, if you would please, on page 1017, this prayer of the day. I want to look at this just a little bit closer. I want us to examine it a little bit together. So much on the aspect of war. Where David is talking about a lot of the battles that he was engaged in and the conflicts that he was engaged in. I don't want to necessarily look at it as, I don't want us to have the W mentality, George W. Bush mentality. This is not about war. It's not about what they tried to do to my dad. I want us to see the eternal as our rock in the wars that we fight on a daily basis, the wars that we fight to maintain good health, the wars that we fight, to maintain our communities, the wars that we fight to try to get our politicians to do the right thing. That's the current governor. He only been in office how long? Well, already his approval rating is below 25%. So that means that the people that voted for him, are not even agreeing with a lot of the policies that he's trying to implement. And the policies that he's trying to implement are policies that are going to be directly affecting people of need. And they always come after people, the communities that have the greatest need. Do you know that of the nearly 10,000 people that are homeless in this city, and some say that that estimate is low because there has not been an accurate count of the homeless in Chicago in several years, that over 65% of them are on the streets because of the institutions that have been closed in the state of Illinois, beginning with Governor Jim Thompson, building prisons, and closing mental institutions. So people with those needs are put out on the street. And so now the homeless population, I don't know if you've ever driven under Lower Wacker Drive. They cleaned it up now. But if you ever driven over under the Lower Wacker Drive, it used to be it used to be you would have thought that the homeless people had apartments under there. I mean, they had their boxes lined up, and all you would see was boxes and row after row after row of homeless people. And many of those homeless individuals had mental deficiencies. Many of those homeless people had mental deficiencies. We're in a war because the Congress that we currently have for the last 4 years has been trying to do away with what they call Obamacare. They're so obsessed and so lack of caring about those who do not have, that their only concern is about those that do have. That's the war that I want you to think about. I want you to think about the war and ask yourself, is there a trauma center, a level 1 trauma center in your neighborhood? If you get hit by a car, God forbid, and you're on the south side, they will have to take you to Stroger or to Northwestern Memorial for level 1 trauma center, while one of the richest medical and educational institutions in the country sits on the corner of Maryland and 58th Street. And in 1988, they closed their level 1 trauma center. Well, in 1988, when they closed their level 1 trauma center, there were 6 hospitals on the south side, 2 head trauma centers. Since then, all of them are closed. The only other hospital close by the south side is the one I think it's called St. Bernard. Is that it? Yeah. St. Bernard, and it's right on the other side of the dam, around like the 66th Street, something like that. That's a war. And I don't know how you engage. I don't know if you're willing to sign petitions. I don't know if you're willing to make telephone calls. But you see, if we don't make any noise, then you gotta take what they give you. But at least if you make your noise, you don't have to take what they give you without saying, I don't want this, I don't like this, I don't appreciate this. Healthcare. Healthcare. Care for the aged in this community. All of these funding sources are being cut by the governor, want to be cut by the governor of this state. That is his desire. Educational funding, cut. I talked to you last week about how we are acting as little pharaohs again, but there is no greater pharaoh. There is no greater pharaoh than those people that are supposed to have control over the scarce resources of our society. Politics is the control of the scarce resources of a society. That is what politics is. Who's controlling those resources? That's why, as a Chicago citizen, I felt bad on Tuesday. Because less than 40% of the citizens in this city voted for the office of mayor. And when they voted, they drank the Kool-Aid. And nobody has any blame now. That's the war. That's the Pharaoh. That's the Red Sea. Those are the enemies that we have to see. And we have to address them collectively and individually through social action, through our being socially involved. You just can't pray away every problem. Some problems you got to get up and do something about. Right? You just can't read away every problem. Sometimes we have to get up, get out, and get involved. We have to involve ourselves in those organizations that are fighting to protect the smallest and the most vulnerable of 30 years ago, there was a thing that your company had for you, and there was something that you had for your company. It was called loyalty. It was called loyalty. And that company, you know, if you were there on time, you did your job, if you had that pleasant type of personality, they did all that they could to keep from cutting back and laying off. You see what I'm saying? That way with Reaganomics. And when he brought that in, it trickled down. But it never trickled to 105th Street. It didn't trickle to our house. We didn't get the benefits of Reaganomics. We didn't ascertain those benefits. But what started? What started? The systemic breaking up of unions in this country. The systemic breakup. And he said, I'm going after one that is supposed to be one of the most highly skilled labor forces in the country. Air traffic controllers. And he actually told us that people in the Army that he assigned to go into the towers was qualified to do that job as individuals who had trained and spent years and years doing the job. We don't know how much danger we were in. We really don't. So we go from Reaganomics and the destruction of that union, air traffic controllers. Then we get this thing called dumping. Well, they lifted all of the tariffs that this country used to charge foreign countries to put their steel or their products in this country. It started with the Germans and allowing the Germans to bring in their steel without tariffs. And then it went to other countries that were producing steel. And then, one after the other, the largest steel mill in America, Bethlehem Steel, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, is a casino today. The largest steel mill that was in America, Bethlehem Steel, was cut up, and one little part of it is a casino today. And that casino is trying to hold up the economy. You know how many people I knew that put their children through college working at the steel mill? Working at General Motors, working at Fisher Body, working at Electric Motor Division, working at Reynolds Aluminum. In McCook, Illinois, in the 1970s, Reynolds was in one locale. Less than a mile away was Electric Motor Division, and around the corner was another big manufacturer. The name is escaping me right now. At General Motors, we had over 19,000 employees. I don't know how many they had at Reynolds Aluminum and at the other. So in a 2-mile radius, you may have had 50,000 people working. They're gone now. It does not exist. And the jobs that our people are offered are not paying those jobs as used to be. We are still in a difficult situation. We're still like David. We need to cry out to God. But not only do we need to cry out to God, we need to start working in unison, working in collaboration with other entities that are interested in making and fighting to retain so many of the vital services that we have lost and that we are continuing to lose. That we are continuing to lose. You may be okay now. You may think that they don't come, but you know they had to go into a fight because they were trying to change the pension in the state of Illinois. You may say, well, I'm all set and I'm protected by the court. And, well, it could all fall in. Now we have a gentleman that made the declaration to run nomination of president. But if I ever had the opportunity to meet, I think his name is Paul Rand, or Rand Paul, something like that. And you know his main declaration, it is time for us to take our country back. What does that mean? Who had it? You got it, I mean. David, can't you must have a country. We elected a president. He had, to my understanding, a plurality of the vote, and then he won in the electoral college twice. So where did the country go? Where did the country go? It is time. Did you see the news? North Charleston? 50-year-old man. Why was he running? Because he owed child support. He got out of his car running. And when the police came, then he tased him. And the guy just kept running with the taser. And this guy shoots this man in his back 8 times. And then he walks up to him and drops the taser on the ground. And he calls Zaken. Shots fired, shots fired. I just had to struggle here. Defending my life. Filmed the entire thing. If he had not filmed that, you would have never been believed like this little boy is. But see, though, I see in South Carolina, I think it was North Chicago, when a young boy got shot in the back twice. And the police said, oh, I was under duress and under attack. And they said, how was he attacking you? You shoot him in the back. Should have been arrested for first-degree murder. Maybe you don't have any sons. Maybe your sons are all grown. Maybe you don't have any grandsons. Maybe all you have are granddaughters. Maybe you think because your children or grandchildren don't live in the vicinity of Chicago. Let me tell you the facts. The facts are that it does not matter where a man of color, of African descent is in this country, from the nation's capital to the Allegheny Mountains to the Adirondacks in New York, when you go all the way out to the state of Washington, it does not matter where you are. You are still under assault. And you too, my brother. So as you have brought this little son into the world, you're going to have to get in the battle. And maybe you don't have any children that are young. Maybe they're all grown. We need to join the battles for speaking up and raising our voices against institutions and against laws and against those who are supposed to represent us, who do nothing but want to take from the small and increase and grow those who already have a great deal. I'm involved. I've been involved for many, many years. And I do believe that it is our obligation, that it is our responsibility to do what we can, collectively as a community, and individually, perhaps in your particular city, suburb that you live in, to be involved with those issues that are affecting those who are the most vulnerable among us in this society. But because it still does not make sense. Since Mr. Obama took office and the stock market was barely over 7,000, now the stock market has hit 18,000 and come back now to 17,000. Well, I have a question for you. Are you any richer now that the stock market has elevated itself than you were when the stock market was at 8,000 or 9,000? It doesn't affect you. It does not affect the greater majority of the people in this country. That's why when I use this quote that I got from Elder Moshe, he says everything, that he got from a newspaper, that Mahatma Gandhi's son had what his father called the 7 sins of modern man. And the first of those sins of modern man was wealth without work. Wealth without work. You don't have to do anything for my wealth because it's all mine. I got it. And you are going to work. But you know what's going to happen when you work? I'm going to do my utmost to see if I can have you working very hard and paying you very little. And if you press me, I will take my business to Mexico. I will take my business somewhere in the Far East. And I don't care about the working conditions that those human beings have to work under. I don't care that the conditions that they work under are disruptive to their very health, that there are no environmental controls, there is no EPA. Because I want one thing. I want to make all of the money. So my last question is, how much is enough? How much is enough? Those who want to take the country back, and I told you, get your passports. Because America's not what she was, and I don't know that she ever will be again. We have seen such a rise in what many people call, remember what they called it? Post-racial America? That phrase didn't live very long, did it? Post-racial America did not live long. We're still in a very, very divided state of America. Very much so. Economically, intellectually, educationally, concerning health care, we're still in a very, very divided place. So I ask you, I pray that you will get yourself involved, you will press forward in our communities and collectively, not so much for us, but for these young people, these young boys and girls, not only in this congregation, but throughout the city, throughout the state, throughout this country. Shabbat Shalom.